I just wanted to jump on, hopefully fairly quickly, and talk to you a little bit about the changes to telehealth because I think the the way we definitely could have communicated this better, and I think that some of the kind of core messages and the thinking behind why we're making this change has kind of been sort of lost in the noise. So I kind of want to talk to you today about why that is, and why we truly think it's in the best interest for practitioners and for our customers. First of all, though, I want to thank everyone for their passion. With Powered we know Powered is super important to running your business, and I know that often, people don't get fired up and don't, talk about things if they're not passionate about it. So we do recognise that and appreciate the buy-in with Powered. Okay, I want to sort of just give a little bit of sort of background and context. So our job, as a platform provider, and as many of you know, we have been around for a long time. We were founded 12 or plus years ago, and we've grown every single year since then. Now, our job, like as a platform provider, is not just thinking about where things are today, but really looking ahead to the future and looking at what's happening to the healthcare market, what expectations are developing, what the patient expectations are, where the market sort of is moving. And our job as a platform provider and to do the right thing by our customers is to really look to the future and make sure that we're well positioned to provide the best technology and platform to our customers so that they can do the very best in the market. And that approach, often means making changes, making upgrades, doing things that, and sometimes, as you would have seen on the Facebook group, sometimes we cop some criticism around that. People sometimes will say, well, just leave things as they are. Things work fine as they are. Don't change it. But the reality is the market changes, expectations change, technology changes. We need to kind of keep evolving. And, that's the approach that we've taken from day one. And as I said, Lake Powdari has grown every year since then. And we really, appreciate that. But, we appreciate all the support people give us. But also it wouldn't happen if we remain sort of stagnant and said, okay, we've got the system, it's working well, let's just leave it. Let's not develop new things or make any changes, even when we see the market is changing. So let me explain about telehealth, specifically why this change and kind of, why now. So there's a few big bets that we're making based on, not pulling them out of the air, but based on what we see happening to healthcare provision globally. So this is pretty universal. So first of all, we see that telehealth is growing globally. Clearly, it's here to stay. I don't think that's a surprise to anyone, but it's becoming increasingly important modality of providing health services and increasing expectation from patients that their provider will provide telehealth services. Second of all, the if you like, the patient expectations around the quality of telehealth are increasing, and we're still at the very early stages of that trend. But what happens when new technology, and I say new because let's say since COVID, a lot of patients and clients have had their first sort of contact with telehealth and with receiving healthcare as a modality. And when new technology kind of comes in, there is there's an acceptance, if you like, that there may not be, the experience might be a little bumpy sometimes, and that there's an awareness that this is sort of a new modality. But what we see, and as we would expect, and as rightfully should happen, is that as technology evolves and a modality, for instance, providing care, becomes more established, that the patient experience should get better and better. And we see that happening, and we think that will continue to happen, so that the experience will be that the telehealth experience should be seamless and should be something that's really kind of intuitive, really easy to use, and also super reliable, and not too dependent on local factors such as internet connections and things, which we'll talk about a little bit more in a second. The next thing that we're sort of seeing is that healthcare, and again, I don't think this will be a surprise to anyone, but is becoming increasingly competitive. And we see that both within geographical regions, but we also see that increased competition is coming from telehealth service providers, right? Which again makes sense, and that's both a risk and an opportunity. So the risk is obvious that we can have telehealth providers coming into service people that live in our geographical space, But also the opportunity is that we're also able to provide telehealth services outside of our geographical space and access broader markets, which is fantastic, especially if you're in niche areas or you want to focus on different specialties and so forth. That's amazing opportunity. But when we look at it from the future, if we see that telehealth providers can come into kind of geographical areas and provide services to clients, and we have this opportunity, we need to make sure that the telehealth platform that people are providing those services is top level, because we think the market will reward over time telehealth service providers that provide the best experience to patients. And you can imagine that yourself, right? If you've got the different experiences that you have as a consumer of healthcare impact, how you feel about that healthcare. And what we see, therefore, is that having really good telehealth services that are robust, reliable, that people are familiar with, are comfortable with, and that are very tolerant of things like variable internet connections, being able to handle multiple connections, so in a group appointment and so forth. Those things are going to become increasingly important. Okay, so our job then as a platform provider is to make sure, as we do with everything else that we kind of look at, right, is to make sure that our platform is positioned, has the right offering to empower practices to do really well in the sort of telehealth economy, and to make sure that they're kind of really well, positioned for that, and to be able to take advantage of that, and not end up sort of getting left behind. And that's the way that we see sort of our role. And that's the basis of Power Diary remaining. We've seen lots of platforms come and go over the years, and one of the reasons that we've been able to continue to grow is that we are day and night. This is what we think about, are these sorts of things, and sometimes that means that we have to kind of make some tough calls. So with our existing telehealth offering, as some of you might have read, in different ways, that the Lite and the Plus are powered by or rely on technology by a company called Twilio, which are a massive company. It uses what's called WebRTC technology, which most, if you look at most competitor platforms all use the similar technology, because it's very secure. It's has a lot of pluses, and particularly in the early days of let's say COVID, when telehealth really came into the forefront, a lot of the platforms that provided video conferencing facilities that were sort of designed more for businesses and things, but not for telehealth, they weren't compliant with the requirements that are there for healthcare. So the WebRTC technology, which is a great technology, I'm not sort of putting it down, but it was sort of the best at the time and the most appropriate to use. However, WebRTC comes with some inherent problems, in that it's great when all the variables are correct, right? So when you've got a good internet connection, when you're not sitting behind any kind of complex, firewalls, or you're not in an institution like a school or some government organizations and things that have different types of network settings that prevent WebRTC sometimes from working correctly. Other limitations that it has are things like group calls. The number of people that you can have on a group is, I won't get into all the detail, but it basically it's much harder to do that and maintain good quality of the call, because of the way that the connections, each browser has to connect to each other browser on the call, and it becomes definitely more resource intensive, and you see more quality problems. That's why you'll see a lot of where there's WebRTC technology being used, you'll see group sizes of things capped. It's not, it's because there's some issues around, some inherent built-in natural issues. So we know, overall, when we look at the stats that our that the WebRTC technology has done really well. It's got us to a certain point, but we ended up with an inflection point in that Twilio announced that they will be sunsetting their WebRTC, a lot of their technology that we actually leverage, right? Which meant that we were needing to go back and we're going to rebuild, or we'd have to rebuild significantly our telehealth offering. So that meant that we were at an inflection point where we had to sort of decide, where is the market going? what's going to provide the best opportunity for our customers, and let's make sure that what we build, given we're sort of being our hand is forced, if you like, and that we're going to need to invest in rebuilding the telehealth. What would we do now that the market's evolved from the early days of 2020? The other platforms like Zoom are now compliant and meet all the regulatory requirements when it comes to the provision of healthcare. So let's have a re-evaluation of the technology landscape to work out what's the best way forward. Okay, to make sure, as I said, that customers have the best experience possible and can leverage the opportunities and take advantage of these opportunities into the future. When we did that and we looked at that, we realized that the WebRTC, as having that as a basis, has these inherent problems. And you don't have to take my word for it. If you want to, just Google WebRTC, technology challenge or limitations, right? You'll see lots of people have written about this stuff. It's not new. If you go to any of our competitor forums, or you look at kind of feedback about, you'll see kind of similar to these similar sorts of issues around connection issues at times, core quality issues, and so forth. And these aren't a reflection of the implementation by that particular platform. There's things that you can do, and we would constantly do to improve the experience, but the WebRTC tech does have some fundamental limitations that you won't be able to get around and provide as good experience as technology provided, for instance, by Zoom. And so when we looked at it all, we realized that to provide that really premium kind of experience that we think the market is going to increasingly demand, we should adopt something that's really going to position people well for the future. And working with Zoom as a global provider that are most sort of recognize the usability, the quality, the things are ahead of the game. And we evaluated, a variety of different sort of providers in this space that would be able to, lift to the level. Zoom really has the best offering and the most sort of recognition as well. So for patients, they have that kind of familiarity with Zoom, which we think is important in terms of providing an experience that feels comfortable and natural and familiar. Now there are some we've seen sort of comments where people are talking about that. Okay, these changes, it's sort of driven by commercial decisions, or we're trying to kind of force people onto to paying. I kind of want to provide a little bit of context around that, because I can assure you, the way that this Zoom set up, is a essentially we're taking the bulk of the sort of financial hit, around this, the cost of providing it. So we essentially purchase a very large number of licenses, from Zoom, and then we're able to utilize those licenses to apply them to facilitate each call that occurs, and that allows the call to have kind of the pro features, the full length, and so forth. But there's a very real cost. I'm not sure, but to get a premium product, we pay a very significant cost to purchase the large number of licenses to facilitate the bandwidth, if you like, the number of concurrent calls that we have. And we looked at the different kind of ways that we can sort of the way that people use telehealth. We looked at both the Pro and the Lite and their uses patterns, and we found that when that a very large percentage of Lite users don't do a whole lot of telehealth. They do a fairly small number. It's important that they have the function there, but they do a fairly kind of small number each month. So we looked at what can we provide for free, in that we subsidize. We actually pay for those those calls, but what can we provide to make sure that people at least have the opportunity to use telehealth and to be able to use have all the features there, but also that we can provide some free calls as part of that. So that's how we came up with that number. Now, when it comes to the 40-minute sessions, and we're seeing criticism where people are saying, they're sort of saying, well, our sessions go for longer than that, and we understand that. But just to let you know the mechanics behind that, that's not us kind of looking and saying, oh, well, let's set it at 40 minutes so that people will be kind of forced to pay. But it's a natural flow out of how Zoom licensing works. So essentially, when we establish a call and we assign a license to have a full length call, we have to assign a license for that. So that takes, if you like a seat that for the time of that call, and a license that we have to provide or we have to purchase from Zoom to provide that. The Zoom, as you know, if you start a free Zoom account, you can have free calls to 40 minutes. So what it means is the way that our platform works when we're powering it by Zoom is we are able to, of course, get access to the same free calls that anyone else could as well, if they just start a Zoom account. So if there is a call that is being set up that isn't a pro call, we're able to actually, we don't need to assign a pro license, which is why we can say you can have unlimited um, uh, shorter sessions, because it just reflects that we're not paying for those calls. We still have some costs in terms of on our side, but it's not, we don't have to pay Zoom for that. So we don't, obviously we don't have a charge for that, but that's where that is. It just reflects the difference between the 40-minute and the full length, just reflects the nature of how the Zoom sort of licensing works. Now, ideally, like we would love to have been able to say, hey, yes, the landscape's changed. We're going to be able to provide, the same as before, much better. We're going to be able to use Zoom. We're not going to have any kind of, be able to leverage all the technology that Zoom has and provide a much better experience. And, we're going to do that, for free. But the commercial reality is, it's not possible. And when we look at it, when we think about what are we, with Powered, what's going to be most important long term, it's going to be about our customers having the right technology to do it, and at the most affordable cost possible. The monthly fee that we've set there for unlimited, we still actually take on a lot of risk with that, because that doesn't we still incur costs for each of the way that these providing the infrastructure underneath, and so our costs go up as use goes up. But what we worked out is that around that kind of $9 mark, we can kind of share that cost. And the advantage being, versus if you've got a group practice and you want to go and buy a whole bunch of Zoom licenses, if you want to have 5 calls running at once, you'd actually have to buy 5 different telehealth full licenses to be able to do that from Zoom. What we've done is, whilst each practitioner that needs telehealth will have, if they're using full length, would have that need to have the pro enabled, it significantly reduces because the overall cost, because people aren't having to go and buy 5 separate full Zoom licenses, which depending on the country, is a lot more than what our $9 charge is, or it varies depending on the region. So I don't know if I've done a great job of explaining that, but I wanted to put a little more kind of context, behind it, and let you know these things are things that we recognize and we hear that, a change, particularly if it involves a change that for some people, actually their costs are coming down because people are using Telehealth Pro before we're paying per minute, and we've decided to scrap that and make it so that it's capped, that people aren't ever going to spend more than $9 in a month for using Telehealth Pro. So we decided that we would cap that. So a lot of people are going to pay less. A lot of people, more than half, I think, of the Telehealth Lite users won't pay anything. So that will continue. They're not using, they're using it in a light way. They're using it periodically. And then there are some in the middle that are going to end up paying the $9 that they weren't having to pay before. And we hear that. We know that when you're introducing a change, anything that involves a change to costs and things, people don't naturally going to that's something we always try and avoid. But just want to let these are the sort of thinking behind it. And we really think, like many of the other decisions that we've made, in the past that are tough, to make, but in the long run have kind of run out and worked out well. We think that this ultimately is going to really kind of make a significant difference. And you've got to remember, like with when it comes to Powered, we don't have people locked into like contracts. We don't have any minimum terms. We don't have cancellation periods, anything like that. So when we know that our customers are only with us if we continue to provide and make the right calls time and time, again, that the call will end up being in their best interest and really allow the practice to sort of survive and to keep overall costs for practice, administration down. So we know that so I guess I'm saying that to let you know that we don't think about these things lightly, and we don't sort of think, oh well, this we look at it as a total about what's going to be, in our view, the best, lead to the best outcome for our customers, and to be able to provide the right services to their patients. Anyway, this was a lot longer than I had planned, but look, there's probably a whole other things I could add in, and maybe some things I've emphasized too much that not interested in. Hopefully, you're still with me. Look, if you have any questions, please do let us know. We're happy to answer them. We'll update some of our knowledge-based articles. If there's more information you want about a particular way some things work, whatever, let us know. We're here to help. Okay, great. And again, thanks for the engagement and discussion. All right, bye for now.